everybody, and welcome to the Bridgerton episode of Scripting the Book. Ben is on vacation, but we do have his thoughts recorded, so I'm excited. I tried not to spoil myself on his thoughts, so I'm like, don't look at the video, don't watch. So I get to hear his thoughts at the same time you guys hear his thoughts. And we have another guest. Fingers crossed that they're trying to make it. So fingers crossed they'll be able to make it because they have been. She and I, our good friend Des, we have been chatting all about it and trying to just like reserve our thoughts. So she'll be so upset if she doesn't get to make it.
I've been keeping mine all inside. I haven't said anything to either of you. I mean, nope. I've been tweeting about it under my pen name where people would not shut up about it, but I haven't really done stuff on my main. I did a few like spoiler tweets as I was watching part 2, I think. But yeah.
So I bet you're ready to get it all out. So while we have you here, Zara, since you're our guest, go ahead and introduce yourself, and then Natalie and I will introduce ourselves.
Sure. My name is Zara Hoffman. I'm the founder of Inimitable Books, which is publishing 1,000 Words to Get Started by Natalie up there. But we mostly publish fiction books, and the mission is to uplift marginalized voices without pigeonholing authors into writing about their trauma. Because sometimes we're writing to escape, not just to help other people escape. So That's me. InimitableBooksLLC.com. Check it out. Also, we have a giveaway going on the TikTok, which is same like username that's ending today. So if anyone's interested in winning one of the published titles, go over there and comment.
All right. And Natalie.
Yes, I'm Natalie Locke. Luckily, Zara prefaced me a little bit, but I, as below is as I have co-authored the soon-to-be-released 1,000 Words to Get Started, and my counterpart is Chandra Arthur. I've been saying author and Arthur like interchangeably, and I'm like, no, 2 different things. I love flash fiction, and because of this show, Scripting the Book, I started a TikTok thing where it's book versus picture, and it's for people who haven't seen the show or read the book and not just the show, the movie, whatever. I give an analysis of slight differences between the two and suggest which one first, because I've consumed both, and I got like 22 of them so far, and a master list of way too many.
But that's so cool.
It is.
Recently, I've had some people be like, oh no, watch it first or read it first. Like that happened to me with Shadow and Bone.
I suggest, there's been times where I suggest I'm like, watch the show first, because like I think I suggested it with Good Omens. Thank you very much. I suggested it with Good Omens because there's just so many characters, and the scene of like who's like on visually first almost, and everything going on at once, seeing it on film helps process it.
I will do that. Yep. I will do that eventually. So yeah, that's cool. I saw some of them. I have not seen all of yours. So.
Yeah, I've been having fun. The latest one I did was The Boys in the Boat, about the 1936 University of Washington Husky Clipper crew, so rowing, and yeah, they went to the 1936 Olympics.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, digress. That was like
no. And look, we're both like, yes, tell us more, because this is obviously why we're here. We love this.
Oh yeah. Yet I haven't done a video on Bridgerton yet. I need to, but I want to do one.
You were waiting for this.
Season. Yeah. You got to do each season, each book too. So yeah. All right, and you are here on my channel. I'm Nia, the Vixen of Fiction. I stream on YouTube, and I also stream over on Twitch, so you can catch me. If you want to hang out, read or write, or just, chat with us live, you can do that. I do art. I do writing. I do have a book out, which I'm super happy about. It's a super cute, cozy, short romance with a little bit of magic. So if that suits you, go ahead and check it out. I call it my palate cleanser from my heavy dystopian fantasy and sci-fi that can get a little dark and sad sometimes, and you need something a little light to just be the palate cleanser in between. It's a cute short. And there's another one coming next month. So let us get into Bridgerton. We're gonna start with the like, dislike, love, find out where we all fall in the range. And is anyone a dislike on the book? Do we have a neutral on the book? Do we have a like on the book? All right, I thought we might have a love in there on the book. So no one was in love with this one, but like is our like strong? My like is fairly strong for reading.
My like is fairly strong, but not enough to be loved because a different Bridgerton siblings book is my favorite.
Same. Okay.
So yeah, I think that's a good point. If it was standalone, I could see like this, but when you have a series, it's hard not to compare.
Yeah. And I've seen a lot of people on the internet being like, oh, like saying their favorite, and if it's not Paul, and people shooting them down and being like, oh, you're fat phobic. And it's like, no, like the other couple just might be someone's favorite. It's not necessarily a knock against all the other couples. It's just, like, this one's my favorite.
This one's my favorite. Yeah.
So I mean, if we're talking show-wise, Queen Charlotte's my favorite. Queen Charlotte. King George.
Queen Charlotte knocked it. I'm like, if you can make me like King George, like, how did you do that?
Exactly.
Like, I have empathy for this man. The show.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm like, how did you do that?
He's dang awful, especially to people in America. But
yeah, so I'm like, how you did that? Yeah, Queen Charlotte did that. I'm like, I love them. They're my favorites. But as far as the original book series, how many have you read, and which one is your favorite, if you want to say? So I've read the first 4, and that's on purpose. I deliberately stopped myself from reading the rest, but now I must, since season 3 dropped, and now I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? When we get to that, we'll get to it. So now I'm like, now I must know. I cannot wait any longer.
Okay, I'm going to say the order of the books, which is not the order of the show, but I just need to say it.
I just had to count on my fingers.
Yeah. So Daphne, Anthony, Benedict, which is different from the show, Colin, Eloise, Francesca, Hyacinth, Gregory. So I've read 6. But I don't really remember Francesca's story too much. And I had a quick refresh because of the internet, and I won't say any more about it right now.
Yeah, exactly. So,
favorite?
Which one's your favorite so far of book-wise? Which one?
Eloise. I think if I reread Francesca's from start to finish, that might be, but like I strongly remember the books through Eloise, and for some reason I was probably like really stressed or distracted or both when I was reading Francesca's book. It was around the time that I was ending high school, starting college. So
okay,
a little bit.
So with me reading the first 4, The Duke and I is probably my least favorite, but honestly liked it enough that I kept reading. So when I say least favorite, it's no shade on them. Yeah. Compared to the other ones. Number 2 was my favorite by far because it had everything. It had the sister friendship, it had the dog, it had horses. Like, I'm like, if she could throw in everything that I love, it had it. And the whole.
When we say number 2, we mean Anthony, right?
Yeah, we mean
the Viscount.
I just want to make sure everyone's on the same page of what stories.
Yeah.
So book 2 was my favorite. Book 3 was probably my second favorite. It felt a little Cinderella story-esque.
Oh, 100%.
So loved it. And then Pollen, which would be book 4. Then they're my favorite, and then The Duke and I. And I haven't read the rest, and now I'm starting to think I might love Eloise too, because I love Eloise anyway.
Why am I forgetting what Benedict's book is called? Because
I forget what it's
An Offer from a Gentleman.
Thank you. It's like it flew right out of my mind as you were talking about it. I was like, yesterday I knew this like that.
I just read this in the past month. For anyone who I do a monthly wrap up on Instagram of like the stories I read with like a quick hashtag of like a broad brushstroke of what to expect, and it was one of them.
Yeah, I just my brain completely, because I mostly remember the titles, and I can't say the name of Eloise's because it's kind of a spoiler. I don't know if the show is going to follow it.
Good. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. The next stories are going to be very interesting.
Well, and then there's a toss-up of, is Benedict going to be next or is Eloise going to be next?
Well, the thing is that if you've seen the interviews of the showrunner and stuff, they've like kind of all but confirmed it's going to be Benedict. And also there's a shot in the final episode, which, not spoilers, that's just like there's a certain voiceover that says a certain thing and it talks about looking to the future, and it's like a shot of only Benedict. So I'm like,
but also Eloise, when she puts her hand up on the carriage, this is what you see.
I think they're going to do something like they did this time, where they kind of do at once.
Yeah, because both stories need a lapse of time to build.
Yes.
So I'm actually really glad that doesn't spoil anything.
Yeah, we're just mixing around.
Natalie, which one is your favorite, and how many have you read?
So I've read 6 of them, all the way through Francesca, based on the list that Zara had. But honestly, Francesca was not my favorite. It's
kind of unique compared to the others.
No, for me, it was because of the internal battles, certain people came off a little toxic.
Oh, toxic.
Oh, interesting.
And that's really when someone's trying to control or maybe not listen to know, I don't appreciate it.
The books are really bad at that. I will say, if you like love the consent that's in the show just across all seasons, not really in the books. Like not straight up.
Be aware.
Like it's a lot worse. The guys are a lot more toxic alpha males in the book. In The Duke and I, they do handle the thing that Daphne does a lot better in the book, in my opinion, though.
Yeah. I think we discussed that when we did.
We did. But that's like the only time where I'm like, oh, the book handled a toxic thing better than the show.
Regarding my favorite, it is a tie between Benedict and Eloise. I just felt character depth was very strong, and I even though and actually a lot of the stories between between Daphne, Colin, Benedict, and Eloise, it's all this basis of friendship, and I'm a sucker for that. I mean, because my husband's my best friend. I think that's also close proximity situation of what other choice do I have, but
hostage situation.
Yeah, Stockholm syndrome. I mean, how we just installed a microwave today and our marriage survived. I'm surprised. It took over.
Have you done the IKEA furniture test yet?
Oh no, we did that when we were living in Germany. Yeah. And we just learned, like, I'm an instruction reader and he's not. So we do our separate thing. Either way, with Eloise and Benedict, it was a basis of friendship, or at least politeness, cordialness, and stuff like that, and just kind of practicality. And I really like that with the character development versus hot, steamy passion.
Yeah.
I like that it balances them. It's like it's not that there isn't passion and things like that, but you got to have this friendship. It's not explosive necessarily out of the gate. Yeah. And as someone who's never experienced something explosive out of the gate, it was, at the time that I'd been reading them, it was like, yes, these are more up my alley.
I like that it was explosive after they all acknowledge the connectiveness. But either way, so back to Colin and Penelope. So we all none of us were downright love. everything. What do you think prevented from it being love for us? I'm still thinking of my answer, so I'm hoping y'all fill in while
Can I go first?
Go
Yes,
ahead.
go right ahead.
Even though it's dealt with, the level of dishonesty that exists between the couple it's rough. And not that a romance doesn't have angst. There's always angst. I'm always crying like at the 80%, 75 to 80% breakup moment in a romance book, and I'm expecting it and things like that. But because I know that and it's hanging over their heads for so long, it's like harder for me to like super, super pleasantly enjoy it. It's not that I didn't enjoy the story, but it's like I have to be a little bit more happy with the book in order to list it as like a love.
Yeah. And for me, it starts out at a little bit of a disadvantage just because I don't dislike friends to lovers, but sometimes the longer someone has been friends, it's a little hard for me to be like, oh, now you think she's cute. Now you understand. You've been writing to her and nothing sparked. So
have you watched the Pink Podcast? The Pink Podcast is a reaction podcast, but also a YouTube channel. And there are two guys, and one of them was very much like, they've only watched the show, but one of them was very much like, Colin, you're gonna have to prove yourself to me because like she's been right there the whole time, and like how
yes
you've been. So yeah,
you have
not
your conversation
what
with
you have
her.
until you
You
lose
write to her. Nothing.
You're not supposed to be writing to people in that time. Like if you're not married.
Oh, this is what I need. I need an etiquette lesson because I don't know what's okay or not. I know there's a.
They did an interview. They did an interview, I think, for season 2, or it was like end of season 1 or whatever. And they're like, "Oh, what's allowed and what isn't?" And the ones that they got wrong were so funny, and that was one of them. And then Luke Newton, who plays Colin, was like, "Oh, I guess Colin and Penelope have been like doing stuff they're not supposed to be." It's like, you think?
Yeah.
Like they're constantly unchaperoned and hanging out.
And everybody's just like fine with them just going off to do whatever.
Yeah, so yeah, that was funny.
So yeah, so it starts out a little bit of a disadvantage on that for me, and it's not that I don't ever like friends to lovers. I do. It's just not on the top of my list. It's like so already it was like but that's okay. They're still
it's like
cute.
You're not number one and you have to prove yourself a little bit.
Yeah, you have to prove yourself a little bit more. Yeah, you have to get past, like you said, the lies the whole time. You know what I mean? There's a lot.
Makes me think of Sally Fields in Mrs. Doubtfire when she finds out Ron Wilson's husband. She says the whole time 3 different ways, and you can see how
the whole time.
So she goes the whole time. Then she goes the whole time, like higher pitch, like holy crap, I'm realizing. And then the anger of like the whole time.
Yes, it's that realization of levels and everything that you've talked about, everything that you've shared.
I mean, it's a betrayal. Like, it's not that, they don't love each other and it's a romance. So, like,
I mean,
it's no spoilers, but like the spoiler of the romance genre is that they end up together. So it's not they, but that's a betrayal.
It's a betrayal because certain things could have stayed secret if Penelope did not write about them. And then other times you're like, okay, that obviously happened in the middle of a party. Yeah, you got to write about it. Otherwise, it looks odd if you don't.
Yeah, if you don't say anything.
If you don't say anything, people will be like, what's up with Whistledown? Like, not reporting anymore.
Why is she always nice about Penelope? This makes no sense. So she has to, be
so certain times she does have to, but like the Eloise situation, no one knew. She outed.
But in the show, it's because of the Queen. So for those of you who don't know, Queen Charlotte is not in the books. So there's nothing of like oh, I had to do this because as Genevieve Delacroix, like the Maurice says, like, oh, like a woman would never wear something unflattering. So when she's like, oh shit, like the queen thinks that Eloise did it and is giving her 3 days, or she's basically gonna my best friend. Yeah. I need to do something. And it's like, if it was too minor, it wouldn't have been, you know, the queen probably still would have been like, oh, well, like you're trying to throw me off the scent. But like that was big.
Exactly.
So
let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and we'll pop in Ben's thoughts because we might have some thoughts on his thoughts. So
yes, please share Ben's thoughts.
Add Ben's thoughts. This is our co-host and book club member, Ben Pick.
So glad you can do this.
I'm Ben Pick, and these are my thoughts on Bridgerton, both book 4 and season 3. I'm pre-recording this because I won't be able to join the Scripting the Book cast as we live stream it because I'll be on vacation. And as I'm pre-recording this, the second half of season 3 on Netflix is not out yet. So everything I'm saying is based on book 4 and the first half of season 3. With that out of the way, my thoughts on the book were neutral to like. I feel that the characters were worse together, and I'll get into that within spoilers. And the story did something which I absolutely hate. The only reason why it's a neutral to like is because the final moments of the book were fantastic. There was an incredibly cathartic moment, and I thought that everything was intentionally created and built that way to lead to that specific moment and that specific emotional response, which I'll admit, admittedly, definitely worked. So for all of the issues in getting to that point, the book ended wonderfully. So kudos. But at the same time, getting to that point, there were times where I kept checking how much of the book was left. It felt like there wasn't much story that needed to be told after a certain point, and it did feel to drag on a little bit. So I'll get more into that within the spoiler section, but I will just say that overall, I thought the book was neutral to like.
All right.
Wait, did he send this to you in parts, like play?
Yeah,
yes,
I've heard the file name. You could see the file name said like book, no spoilers.
Yep.
I like this reaction of
that was great. He's like, there are parts that I hate, and we're all like,
oh yeah, like our faces spoke before we did. Absolutely.
I mean, I will say that the show added other storylines. So like they might have agreed with him about like not a ton of stuff was happening every moment, but also the show decided to like start building Colin and Penelope like in the first season. So.
Yeah, true. So I do like that consistency, and the books do have like common threads. Still gets the timeline confusing, I will say. But the book, the comments
much
that
longer time range.
The timeline of the book is okay. A huge thing that just this isn't a spoiler. People who don't know, in the books, by the time that Colin and Penelope's book happens, Penelope's been writing Whistledown for 10 years.
10 years. 10 years. Yep.
And like in the show, she starts in 1813, I think is what Julie Andrews says in the first scene of season 1, where it's like
it's her first
Grosvenor Square, and it's her first issue ever. And then it's like each season's a new social season, aka a new year. So
yeah, and I don't think that this is a spoiler either, but by book 4, Daphne has 4 kids, I think it is. So it has been that 10 years, and Colin is doing some lamenting on how him and Daphne were actually the closest in age, but now she's got this whole life, and he's just kind of like here and trying to figure things out, and he kind of wants something, which brings me to something that I loved about the book. It's the writer aspect of it. Okay, I can't help myself. Just her Penelope's and excellent writer. Everybody's been reading, she's been published, everybody's been reading her stuff, even though her struggle is that it's anonymous. She can't tell anybody that it's her, but she doesn't want anyone else to get the credit for her work. So I'm like, I totally feel that. I totally feel that. Even though you be anonymous, but I don't want that person or anybody else to get credit for my work. Where Colin has the exact opposite. Right. He doesn't know if he's good. He doesn't really, he's nervous to publish. And now eventually he finds some things out, which makes him, I'm like, do we spoil that? Yeah. So eventually he finds some things out about Penelope, and it's just like, man, she's here, and I'm kind of here, and they have to reconcile that. So, but I did like the writer aspect of the storyline a lot, because I could on both of them, I could totally feel that.
I liked the family dynamics of the Featheringtons in the book. I feel like as much as I love the show version, there's like something about the book version that I love, not more, but in a slightly different way. Especially with a certain scene where someone basically tells someone off, and it's like, everyone leave the room, kind of. It's like, no, not you. Like, you stay, but like,
yes.
And so that was, yeah. So I like that aspect. And then I also really like, I know flashbacks in a book are a toss-up for me, but I really like the flashback / prologue in the book. And I really wanted a flashback in the show, given they mention it.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And I was like, you do a flashback for Anthony. Granted, I love Jonathan Bailey. He did not look 18 in that flashback, like he was supposed to. First year out of university, he did not look 18. But like, this could have been the one. They didn't do it. So sorry, that's moving into the show. I'll keep the lid on it. But yeah.
What are some of the things that you liked about the book, Natalie? Or when you're ready.
Sorry, I'm curbing an appetite over here. Somebody wants mac and cheese. But it's in here. It is 3:50. So I mean, we eat dinner at like 5:30, but 4 o'clock is too early.
Yeah, too early.
Either way, so I do love the book, and I definitely feel the dynamics. I will say with because of the diversity between who marries who and stuff, it makes it a little bit harder to remember what's like things from the book. But I will say it, the show sticks with me more than the books do. I don't know why, because I mean, I have a pretty.
They're more dramatic.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
It might be the characters, the actors.
Right.
Yeah, the actors give really good performances. I will say, though, that Burbrook is in the Featherington family and not the really bad piece of shit he is in the show.
Sure.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, it's none of the books, I will say this, as much as I have favorites and stuff, none of the books at this time in my life, given I did just read them this past year, I'm not planning to reread them again. But
I'm mostly rereading them because of the show, and it's like,
it's been so long.
A conversation with people. But if the show hadn't come out, I can't say that I would have reread them.
Yeah, there's very few books that I actually reread. So thank you. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I feel like, so I read them, but I did kind of like brush through this one again because it's been so long. I probably would not have reread it, but I did reread book 2 for last season, and I really enjoyed reading book 2 because I was looking forward to seeing the dog and just just the sister dynamic. So I wonder,
which they completely changed in the show.
Oh my gosh, yes, that was one of the things I knew she was gonna do. That I knew it. It's Shonda Rhimes, so I knew.
It's
If
still
we're
makes
talking
me
show and stuff, honestly, book 2 and the show both felt like YA like development, and not like good YA, like the as if the author was YA as well, like, and didn't experience that. I just have qualms about the whole thing with dynamics and stuff and motives.
I think the book of book 2 did a better job of conveying motives. And I'll just say that.
Yeah, the motives were very clear in book 2, and
But there was still.
Oh no, there's still problems, but at the very
Yeah, like
where the characters
fears.
come from, so I'm going to let some stuff slide a bit more.
We'll get to that because I have some similar issues.
Yeah,
with
we'll go to the next thing.
I really have a concise thought on an issue that I have. So if you come here and you're just like, I have issues with it, they're coming. We did enjoy it, yes, but the issues are coming. The issues are there. We see them.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Do we want to have any other thoughts on the book? It's really hard to talk about this without giving away spoilers for those who just want to read the book, who are just coming into it. It's hard. The no spoiler part is really, really hard.
At times, just because of how good the scenes are in the book, I'm kind of missing. And it's a book and show, but this is not like best and worst change. So like I'm not crossing over into that. But I kind of miss a certain character who was cut from the book to the show, who is maybe closely in proximity to the main couple, to Pollen, that causes intentionally or unintentionally some stuff.
Interesting. Ooh, I can't wait till we get to the spoiler part.
Yeah.
All right. Natalie, you have any other thoughts on the book before we get on to the show so we can start talking spoilers?
Please.
I'm good. Let's press.
All right, let's press. Okay. So we're gonna do first show spoilers only. That way people who still want to talk but don't want us to spoil the books, because there are some differences in the books. So we're going to try not to spoil the books. So on the show, who's a dislike, neutral, like, or love? Anybody a dislike? A neutral. A like? A love. I'm almost there with loving it. I wanted to love it. I was this close, but there were a couple things that I was like,
I had some problems with the editing. And I'll just say that.
All right. Let's get Ben's thoughts on this, and then we
Oh yeah, I want Ben's thoughts so bad.
Yeah, let me see if I can do it without. Nope, it's gonna make me do it again. Okay. Ta-da-da. It makes me pull it up each one individually. I was hoping I'd be able to just switch. Okay. No, it's right here. It's right here, though.
You have to fully stop sharing and then select a new and then restart.
Yeah, it went away, though, so I thought it would. Because it's gone, so I can't stop sharing. You sure was canceled. Hang on. Let me refresh it, see if it'll pop up. Ta-da-da.
Did you try turning it off and back on?
I refreshed it, and there it is. So, it's like really like we don't see it. I'm like, it's right there. Why don't you see it? All right, let's get Ben's thoughts on show.
That's his bookend show. Is that the comparing?
Let me see.
It says spoil, book and show.
Oh, yeah. So he's going to do book and show. So we should probably do show first, and then we'll do his thoughts.
Well, wait.
Okay.
I just saw that title, and I was like,
yeah, I did too. And I was like, wait a minute. Okay. All right. Ben, hang on. You're not the wait a minute, sir. All right. So, in general, what are your thoughts on the show?
I don't want to go first again.
I'll do it. I mean, at this point, no need to talk about world building. They've been on point the whole time. Character development. I actually love the introduction of characters and the further development of it. Cressida's character has been ongoing since season 1. So we're seeing a lot of people return and still have showing dynamic and depth with them. Eloise in the show, every single conversation she has, she is so clever and like very aware of the words she's using. And I loved it every single time.
Some of that word choice is like, oh, that is important. You're playing the pronoun game.
Yes, it was so much fun to watch her interact with multiple people and stuff. And the I will say I got so much secondhand cringe with like lots of scenes in the show, like not even just the first half where Penelope is learning how to interact, but also with the second half. It was so much cringe, like you're putting yourself out there so oddly.
Oh my God. There were so many moments where I was like, this is great. And then there were times where I'm like, this has to be on purpose. But I was laughing. Like, girl, get up. Everybody. Okay, so we're doing show spoilers. So here we go. There's a balloon scene.
Oh my God.
And it did not go the way I thought it was going to go. And I'm like, Penelope, get your butt up. Everybody else moved out the way. What are you doing?
It's moving so slowly. There's an interview or behind the scenes or whatever, and it was like behind the scene of the balloon thing or whatever that Shondaland posted. And like they basically confirm that she's standing there because she's ogling Colin. And it's like, you could have still moved. Like that thing was moving towards
and no one learns to turn. They always run straight. I'm like, turn.
Move out the way.
Well, it's like my annoyance with like movies and TV shows where it's like someone gets a bullet aimed at them at high velocity and there's enough time for someone to jump in front of them. And I'm like, or you could, I don't know, just rotate, or like hit the deck or like lean backwards. Like you're not going to be Matrix and be able to keep your balance if you lean backwards, but at the very least, you'll no longer be in the
moving targets.
I'd rather fall than get hit by a bullet. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and it's
personal
like,
preference.
Like I don't think if she hit the deck, the balloon would have passed over her because it was kind of moving close to the ground. But it's still like roll out of the way.
Yeah.
Everyone else moved out of the way. That was, and I guess it's the ogling Colin that she was like. Delayed.
I didn't catch that. But
I didn't either.
It's a very short thing. And he's also looking at her as well, but it's like a very short thing, which is one of my problems with the editing is that a lot of things are cut away very quickly. And I only really, really knew that they were basically ogling each other because of the behind the scenes. It's like, you shouldn't, it shouldn't be hidden there. It shouldn't
But then
you could see it.
One thing that got me that a lot of people were hung up on is, so the shot is pointed at Francesca. Or not Francesca, the shot is pointed at Eloise, and you hear Francesca say, "Why the sour face?" So many people thought that comment was to Eloise because, and also we see Eloise thinking that comment is to her because she's like about to answer, but it's actually to Gregory, who was all upset and going, "Man, you're getting married before you can take me out to like the gentleman's club, like." Like that's what he had the sour face. But that is the next line after Francesca says that. Thank you. So it goes back to that editing thing because everyone else was like, I didn't know Francesca wasn't talking to Gregory. That everyone thought like Gregory just chimed in on his own.
Yeah, it was like weird. And in hindsight, you're like, yeah, Gregory and Hyacinth talk the most to each other. But when you're on Eloise and you have a line that so clearly could apply to her, especially because we all know why she has a sour face and she's not going to be able to tell anyone else, you're like, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. So editing issues. But I will say that what I did like about the show is it evoked emotion, whether it was secondhand cringe or like oh, it's happening moment or anything.
Yes.
Like there was, I was invested emotionally.
Yeah, I have a lot of. I wanted to. It's hard. When, and it's the same for the other guys too. It's not just Colin, but man, I don't like seeing you hoe around. Oh my gosh.
They did a lot of that. And some people were like, oh, you needed to see it multiple times to show that he wasn't enjoying it after a certain thing and that he was trying before. It's like you could have done one before a certain realization of self-reflection and one after to show the difference.
Honestly, it didn't seem like he ever had interacted with anyone past a certain point, just because in the show they didn't. It was like moments at the beginning, then he's like, oh, I gotta go, and then he kept his mouth shut about his travels of who he's been with, because a gentleman never tells and stuff. And then also I've seen people make the argument that Colin must not be experienced because when he was straightening Penelope's dress, he avoided using these two fingers, and these two fingers are not the primary use of two, should not be used for the thing we're talking about.
Well, another interview. I'm so sorry. Another interview was a choice by Luke Newton because he had used those other two fingers for something else, like right before, and was like,
but if in the science, it should be think Spock.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, never mind. Okay, so reverse Spock. Think reverse Spock. That's what we're talking here. Whereas Colin went almost Girl Scout symbol, and trust me, Girl Scouts would not have gone for this in the nature he's going for.
Yeah. But also, can we just talk about that even if a guy is experienced, a woman's still probably going to do it better for herself?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, like, he might not know. He might have been like, oh, yeah, that's what
maybe none of the other girls told him.
The right way.
Yeah, maybe none of the other girls told him. Who knows? Who knows?
I will say, I mean, I'm not going to trust that he's experienced just because he's paid for things, because
yeah, that's also
I can tell you your employee is not going to tell you you're wrong.
Nope.
Yeah.
They're going to tell you you're the best.
Yeah, because they
their job.
Actually, no, not your employee. You're when you're the customer, they're not going to tell you you're wrong. There we go.
Exactly. I almost said contractor. I was like, no, a contractor would say like, no, you're doing a bad job, especially like if they're in construction. Like, this is a dumb idea. We're not going to do this. So, yeah, customer. If you're the customer, in that
case, you want to make that customer happy because you want to get more money and you want to return visits. So
repeat business.
You're not necessarily going to tell them how it is. So that's always just like, I don't want to see that, but I get it, I guess. But I loved even though I hated it, I loved what was going on with Eloise's storyline. She's one of my favorite characters throughout. I love her. And the friendship she makes with Cressida, there's so much I want to talk about. I need to dial back. Her friendship with Cressida was a little bit surprising, but then again, I'm like, okay, I get how that could come about. And I was just like, okay, she's friends with Cressida. Cressida really isn't nice to Penelope.
Which she would have seen.
Yeah, I'm like, I
think in season 2, like, I think it's time to refine your circle of friends. And Eloise goes, I would rather die, like in that tone.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, Cressida, this is a choice. But there were moments where I almost felt bad for Cressida because and we'll get into changes, but the way that her storyline went in the show, you almost feel bad for her, but then it's like, nope, she's still Cressida. Never mind. You get what you get, girl. Sorry.
Yeah, I did fully feel bad for her. And then it would be like, and I'm going to pull back because of.
Well, and you also got an idea of how she was raised. and
her
it's
mom
hard to
and her
counter
dad.
those like thoughts that have been told to you over and over.
Yeah. But it was just, I think early on you're like, oh, it's the dad. And then you have the mom being like, haven't I taught you that it's everyone out for yourself? And it's like, yeah, you're throwing your daughter under the bus as well. So like, you suck as
Yeah.
well. She is two not good parents.
Yeah. Not going to talk about how it's a change, but what did we think of the side dude? I kind of liked him. I was like, why are you making me like him?
Okay, so I liked him, and then I saw some people on the internet making some good points, and I'm like, it doesn't mean I don't like him, but it does reinforce I don't think he was right for Penelope.
Right.
Not just because Colin
100%.
exists. Not just because Colin exists, but he like, she's like, oh, I like being inside, and I like books. What does he get her? A plant, which is his interest.
Yeah.
You know, it's not even like, oh, here's a book on plants, because I saw that earlier, or maybe it was after, I don't remember the order of the scenes, where like she had been reading a book on where he was going to be traveling to. So like if she says, I like books, why are you getting her something that's not a book?
Yeah.
It's about your interest that you're trying to like.
And a lot of it is about him, and he's like, you could tell he's not going to stop his travel at the time where they do their breakup. He's not going to stop his travel. So he's perfectly happy with her. I think he thinks she's lovely and delightful and pleasant to talk with. All of those good things doesn't mean that you're right for each other, but you get this sense that he's like, you're going to be here.
I mean, that was
I'm still going to be out doing my thing. I'm going to be out doing
at the time. So
yeah.
That's why, Portia's like, that was like security. What are you doing? Like that.
Yeah. And he's out of your hair.
You like him. He's like not going to be in your hair. He's not going to be micromanaging you. Like, what are you doing?
This is perfect. When he's around, y'all get along. But then when he's gone, you've got everything to yourself. So for a lot of women of the dawn, that would have been like a dream scenario. Like, I don't have to deal with him, but when I don't want to.
He just disappeared in part 2, and I'm like, yo, if he had gone to Cressida, would have solved a lot of problems.
Yes. I'm like, Cressida's right there.
Cressida's right there. You were interested in her too. Where'd you decide to take your trip early? Like, you can't just do that and be like, oh, I changed my flight.
What I didn't like is, so he is talking to Cressida. He leaves, grabs them both drinks, and doesn't come back because he then starts to talk to Penelope, and that's when she's fully honest with him, and he finds that in Derek. And I'm like, you're in the middle of a considerate task.
He's grabbing the drink for Cressida. I don't even remember if he grabbed one for himself, but he then gives the one meant for Cressida to Penelope.
Exactly. And to me, that was the worst thing that he had done. Everything else up to that point, I felt he was being authentic to himself of like, hey, I like to go places. This is me. But yet he also makes a comment of like, I have things to talk about outside these passions. But then, like you said, gets a plant. Like, do you have things outside this passion?
What are they? Tell us the truth.
But I still love the character, and the actor, I thought, played him perfectly, and his beard was on point.
Loved it.
He's also supposedly dating someone from the cast. I think he's dating.
The Featherington sisters are dating the dudes of Bridgerton.
I think he's in real life dating Prudence's actress, who I found out Prudence's actress is the daughter of Imelda Staunton.
Yes. Yep. I love
it. So. And as well as her father is, if it's who I'm thinking about, her father is the butler in Downton Abbey.
Yes.
Cool.
Yep. So she's got her parents are
British
acting royalty. Yes, they really are. And I believe the other Featherington sister is dating Benedict. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I've heard that, but then someone said that was actually false and that they're just.
It's actually false. Are we sure?
Prudence one is confirmed, and then I heard yes and no on the other one. But
so, all right, I think we talked about the show better than we did with the book, which explains why we kind of had higher rankings than the book. No,
I still said like on both of them because the editing really brought it down for me.
Yeah, there were a couple things. Had it been edited better, I could see that scene actually having been done better. Had she tripped over a picnic blanket or something like I needed a reason for her to be immobile.
Yeah, like
I
she was
didn't.
trying to run away.
I wasn't
and then
picking up that it was this that she was entranced by Colin.
instead she just goes
thought
down, and it's like you didn't even trip on anything.
Yeah, I'm like I needed a
Knock over the
reason.
basket or something, or the pillows or what. But also the one that really makes me mad is that the wedding dance, Nicola Coughlan released a full thing without any cuts. And it's like, we didn't need to see everyone's reactions every 5 seconds. I know that she's a wallflower and she's now in the center of the attention, but if you're going for like the Pride and Prejudice 2005 Pride and Prejudice thing where it's like, oh, you see everyone in the room when they're starting, and then it's like they go into their own little world and it's now an empty room. Why are we still cutting away to everyone else every 5 seconds?
Yeah, we didn't need that. Like, yeah, there's something really special about those scenes. And you're right. They happen in Pride and Prejudice and other period pieces. The dance is like iconic. It's so iconic, that big room dance, and those moments where you just see their hands brushing or their shoulders brushing, or they look at each other, or if they're in an argument and they do that, like trying to talk to each other. You know, it's about them. Yes, everybody's now it's about them.
Cut to the reactions after, or like when they start walking out. Yes, you can cut to people looking and being like, "Oh, like that's not normally done," which is something like Colin almost literally says. Like people's reactions to, "Oh, they're going on the floor," but once they start dancing, let that be it, and then have cut to people being like, "Oh, that just happened," and like, whatever.
I saw a great reel or TikTok, and it was so funny, and it took excerpts from the show, and it said, "Don't eat in front of a Bridgerton," and it showed Daphne looking at Simon as he's licking the spoon when they were like in the ice cream shop or whatever, and she's just like, "Oh my god!" And then Colin, when Penelope's eating and she's like licking her fingers and stuff,
and then Violet looking at,
oh god, I forget.
They are family. They are related. They have,
and then but then the only thing that they tried to show, which I was like, that doesn't convey the same, is when Kate walked by Anthony and he closes his eyes as he's like inhaling the air after she walked by. I was like, not quite the same, but I applaud your effort.
Yeah, also like him looking at her ankle isn't the same either, because it's not like literally like them consuming something and then you're just like romanticizing like, wow, that's so sexy, and it's like they're eating something. Like in real life, they're just eating something. Obviously, for the camera, it's like slow-mo and looks great.
Oh, yeah.
You probably have to do multiple takes to not make it look like messy, but...
Yeah, because I can tell you, I am not as delicate with ice cream as they were. or a petit four, something with like powdered sugar on top. Oh, it's over.
It's everywhere. Yeah.
So anyway, all right.
What do we think about our side characters? Before we compare them, do comparisons.
I love the Featherington sister storyline and
the one-liners that Mama Featherington had. Like she had so many one-liners. I'm like, oh, damn.
Inserts himself where? Why?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Why am I being punished?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, oh my god, she even had a great line, which is such a mom line to say, but it just showed how clueless he was. She was like, "I'm so happy that you're gonna be here to take care of me." Like, she's trying to pay her a compliment going, "I don't trust your sisters," but I was like, ooh.
It's like that, and that's when Penelope's like, "I need a husband.
Yeah, I got to get out of this.
I can't be stuck in that situation."
Yeah, Mama Featherton had so many one-liners, and I did enjoy the development of Lady Danbury, because we had the development during Queen Charlotte's season of her, but this is kind of, I enjoyed it a lot more. And can I say
spoilers? So
I'm gonna just say this, but Lady Danbury's brother does not exist.
Yeah, he does not exist.
Yeah,
I feel like that's not a spoiler if I'm saying it doesn't exist, but
I mean, he doesn't exist in Queen Charlotte either. So like everyone shows up and it's like, oh, they have beef, and you're like, is this like another past lover? Is this her
Yeah.
son? Because she made it very clear in Queen Charlotte she just have no love for her children. When, you know, the queen was like, how do I get my kids to marry? And, you know, Violet's like, oh, well, Lady Danbury. And Lady Danbury very quickly is like, my 4 children have done me the great honor of moving far away. It's like, oh, okay. She had given the queen the sex talk. She's like, I'm done. I don't need to go into how to be a good mother.
And this is the first season since the Queen Charlotte season. So we had a beautiful moment between Mama Bridgerton and Lady Danbury where they were like, we're friends. You're my friend. I'm your friend. The end. Nothing else
He's
matters.
a good man. You are my friend. That's all that matters.
Yeah. And I was like,
yes.
Like just to have that closure. I didn't realize I needed that closure, but it helped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got a lot of closure that I didn't know that they needed.
I cried during that scene when they finally got to it. But even when she was like, you know, my friend, like our friendship isn't contingent on you doing stuff for me, because I was like, oh, I love that. We need to see more of this.
Yes, more good friendships, which is also why resolution with Penelope and Eloise was so important to me. I was like, that was so hard. It was so hard.
I got mad at Eloise though when she asked for a favor and then was like, I can't get in the middle. And I'm like, you did it blew up in our faces, and now you can't get in the middle to put in a good word for me. I was like, Eloise.
The way that me and my daughter raised about Eloise, we're like, girl, what are you doing?
Did she think she wasn't going to be like, outed at all? Like once, because it was going to come to light, and Colin would have asked, like, but I mean, he even asked the same thing when we thought it was Cressida. He was like, how could you, you couldn't be friends with someone, you know, like that. Like,
and it's like, and you know, she's like hedging around it without telling Penelope that she's kind of trying to go to bat for her without like spilling the beans. And then this is, you know, he knows that the cat's out of the bag, and now you can't defend me with all the cards on the table.
Yeah.
After you asked me to do the thing, like I was ready to walk away from the whole thing. It was good. It was hard, and I was getting some advice to not. But like I was ready to do it because this has been my like dream for basically my whole life, is to like, you know, marry the man of my dreams, become a Bridgerton, be like seen and loved by a family because I'm not by myself. So I was going to like put away the thing that could jeopardize that. I went back to it for you and for your family. And now you can't support me. And I was like, Eloise.
I'm curious how for the show this is going to develop, because I mean, it's not until Colin is book 4 that she's outed, and that's at the end, and then the timeline of book 5 and 6 kind of overlap a little bit with her outing. So like technically you can get to the end of 5 and 6 and even they don't know yet. And so I'm curious how the show, now I haven't read 7 and 8, but I'm curious how the show is how this is going to develop of she's out, but we still got a lot of story to tell.
Well, I think it's now going to be mostly about the couples rather than the mystery, because they really emphasize the mystery starting in season 1.
Yeah. I kind of hope so. Not going to do the comparisons yet, but I
do love to drag out the mystery, honestly, because they could have, but I'm so glad.
Francesca is there during the announcement. Eloise knew, but like if she had it, she's there during the announcement. We don't know if Violet spilled the beans of the contents of the letter to like Hyacinth and Gregory or to Anthony, although everyone on internet was like, I wanted to see Anthony's reaction once he realized that Penelope was the one writing shit about him for being a man.
Because he applauds himself to like know so much.
I was like, but was she wrong though? And it's like the same thing with Colin when he got so offended. We're like, but she never lied in her column. She literally has never lied in her column.
Yeah. I did like at this season where they covered other gossip that was going on, and it briefly showed those characters, and I was like, okay, so she's not just talking about the Bridgertons, because up to this point, it was like everyone outside the Bridgertons didn't exist, but they finally mentioned other stuff, and I'm like, got it.
Yeah,
I mean,
I take that as that they were. What's that, Zara?
There were throwaway lines in previous seasons, but it was like very minor. So it would be like, oh, this person's obviously the whole thing with Burke in season 1, but there were like a few other times where it was all very minor because it wasn't important to the plot. But now that we're finally like kind of in Penn's point of view, it's like, okay, he has to be
the way that I take it is that there were other articles being written, and so all of these people were being written about at some point in time.
But
we're only getting the ones that are pertinent to the story that we're in at the moment. So that's just my takeaway of how I reconcile those types of things.
I mean, it's a trifold thing. It's printed on both sides each time.
I'm sure they're talking about more than just the Bridgertons or the Featheringtons. So the side stories, guys, because
Francesca
Francesca and Benedict all had pretty major side stories going on. I mean, Francesca wholly gets married in this, which I'm fine. I'm only mildly been spoiled to what her future is going to be, because I'm like, wait a minute. Literally, I'm like, what was that? And I'm like, did I see what I think I saw? And
but then at the end,
people in comments were like, yes, you saw what you think you saw.
At the end, a different character came in, and everyone lost their shit because they're like, oh my god, you changed the gender. And it's like, we also changed the race
to the point where Julia Quinn made a multiple paragraph thing going, listen, they talked to me, and I was very first, but we talked it out of all the pieces. And she pretty much, in short answer, she was like, they have my blessing.
Yeah, they have my blessing, and I support it, and I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, the books don't stop existing, guys. If you like the way it is, the books don't stop existing because the show exists.
Some people are worried about. Oh, sorry, you go.
Yeah, no, that is true. Some people are worried about how
about the timing, because it's like the book is kind of about, can you have two loves in your life?
Love of your life.
Yeah,
and it's like very interesting thing. They're happening at the same time. Is that like they seem to love their love triangles, and I'm a little bit over it.
For me, I'm more focused on the dynamic of ownership and how it's usually down male lineage and such. And so I worry about that, but I'm sure.
I'm curious.
That's semantic. They're going to fix it.
I'm curious.
It's logical to me.
Yeah. Wait, for which family?
For Francesca's storyline of who.
Oh yes.
Who gets?
I feel like, just of what I know, I've got to read her book first to be sure. But I feel like, just from what I've heard, I feel like I've got an idea of what they might try to do with it. But I really want to read her book first before I get
before you speculate
into my theories. Yeah, I'm already making theories.
You need to record yourself and like tape it. And be like, I said.
I do like that they kind of started the Eloise story where she's like, were you crying? And she's like, just mourning another friend lost to marriage. And it's like, people will joke online where it's like, yo, she gets married, insert timeline that I'm not going to say, because everyone around her got married in the book.
Yeah.
Now she's very different in the show in that she's like, not necessarily like everyone got married, so I have to, but it's.
I will say, and I know we're digressing a little bit, but because Francesca's storyline was touched here, there is one thing that happens to Francesca that happens to a lot of women that I hope they keep, because that hasn't been shown or seen, and it needs to be talked about more, and because it's more common than people think. But when we don't talk about it, people think it doesn't happen, and I want it to be. I want to see it. Now, if for the plot of the story, it makes sense for it not to happen, as it did in the book, just because of lineage situation, and still has to continue, because that's how I think it might end up happening. Is I respect it, but I still want that at some point. I'm not going to hold on to that and sacrifice the plot. I will say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious. This is one of the things I'm speculating on how they're going to do it. I feel like they understand that a particular thing that's supposed to happen in our storyline is going to be important. So I have a feeling they're going to make it work. So I'm very curious to see how they do it.
I think they're going to treat it similar to how, did they change stuff without saying the spoilers? I know there's a separate section about book to screen adaptation for book 4, season 3. But it's like, we got the mirror scene, we got the carriage scene, and
we got so much.
Those were different. Even back in season 2, when Colin insults Penelope, is it different from how it was in the book? Yes, but like it happened is like still there. So I believe that it'll somehow.
Yeah, I oh my gosh, I love that the carriage scene. I was like, they did it.
Shonda has my faith between her creation of Grey's Anatomy, and the Bridgerton shows. I mean, multiple seasons. Like, I know she is not going to do a disservice. So I mean,
she's no longer the showrunner, though.
Yeah, that makes me
which makes me nervous.
Here's the thing. I have a love-hate relationship with Shonda because she brings the drama, and sometimes she brings it so much. I'm like, why are you doing this to me? Like, when couples get ripped apart. But at least with this, I know that the couples are going to end up together eventually, even if you change some things for the drama's sake. Because sometimes the drama can get a bit much for me, and she loves the drama. So
I was just upset for Edwina. Like, when I was like,
that is exactly
that doesn't belong.
I knew, but I knew she was going to do it. I went in, I was like, I know this is what because you could see it. It's right before it. So I'm like, I knew that was what she was going to do. So with this one, I was like, what is she going to do? Well, it's like, I know she's going to do something that's going to make me be like, why are we doing this? But, it's addicting. It's addicting. You want to see how she's going to resolve it. So I can see now why we didn't get Benedict next. I really, honestly, some of the things that are being explored with Benedict, I wished that they had done it in an earlier season so that we could focus. Yeah, so that we could focus more.
They kind of did.
No, and they couldn't.
But I feel like they
rehashed it out more because it's the same issue I had with season 2 is the same issue I have with season 3. I feel like there's so many other things going on that we're missing a lot of the romance with the main couple.
Yes, we didn't even see Japanese wedding. We did not see
Japanese marriage, and then they're gone. They don't even. We seen where are the Bridgerton babies? We got to see.
We saw them in Queen Charlotte when Violet's playing with her grandkids.
Which baby was that? Whose baby was that?
It was Augie from the end of season 1, and then another child who was also biracial. So it's like, oh, Daphne.
That's all we get. That's all we get. I'm like, no wedding. No babies, and then they're gone for the last wedding. What?
I feel like they're just repeating Benedict's storyline over and over, even though they add a little bit of new flair each time. And I'm like,
we get it.
We get it. I love the representation of what he is, but given you made that representation like subtext in the first season, and then you like made it kind of more explicit in the second, but really made it explicit in the third. It's like, you could have made it really explicit in the second and then had him like doing more art this season, because that just
that's his main
thing. He actually straight up denies doing art.
I know. I
was like, wait, what?
You do.
What happened? He's asked in season 1, oh, where are your paintings? And he's like, oh, I don't. But you see him sketching, and it's like, take the compliment. You can actually do art. Second one, he applies to an art school and gets in, not for the reasons he thinks, but still, like, he gets in and is learning stuff and is good. And his storyline for the book, just very briefly, is him feeling like aimless. So show us him feeling aimless, not like jumping from bed to bed.
Yeah.
And also he feels ignored. And instead, in this season, he's like, all these women are coming at him, and he's like trying to like fend them off and uses like Lady Danbury as a shield, and like, you know.
Yes. Also, I do love his relationship with Eloise. Again,
That
I don't know.
One of my favorites, yes.
Fan-freaking-tastic. Love their relationship.
I loved the nod to the first season of them being on the swings.
That
was a beautiful moment.
I love that. Oh, so good.
Oh, so good.
Okay, so let's do comparison. I gotta compare because there's one scene.
Comparison is Ben first.
Yeah, Ben first, and we gotta do it.
Right.
I talked about world building and everything, so let's hear what Ben has to say on this.
All right, here we go. Oh, nope, it didn't do it. That's the same one.
No, that says spoiled. No, that's the one you're supposed to be doing now.
But I'm not on the right one. But
okay. It's sharing the correct one. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, onto the spoilers.
There we go.
The reason why I thought that the book was less than ideal is because two main reasons. First of all, we have Colin and Penelope. So Colin is this calm, collected, friendly, outgoing person that we've seen for multiple books. And yet when he starts realizing he has feelings for Penelope, he becomes this possessive, angry monster. And that starts with her reading his diary, which admittedly, sure, he can get upset about because that's an invasion of privacy. But he tries to outright control her in a way which felt really out of character. And I already mentioned this, but nothing short of possessive. As for Penelope, well, we're inside of her head, and since I watched the first seasons of the show, I know that she is Lady Whistledown. So Penelope is Lady Whistledown, except in the book, I thought that she wasn't, because there are points where we are in her head and people are specifically asking her about Lady Whistledown and her thoughts and all these various questions, and at no point did Penelope really think, oh, I have a secret, or I need to be careful about what I say, or I need to not think about this specific thing. She just answers them in an obscure way, or she pivots, or
she's diverts been doing it for a decade
question somehow. And because of that, that makes me think of a serial killer in the room with the murder victim and the detective. And if we're inside the serial killer's head and they're not thinking about the murderer they committed, they are nothing short of a sociopath. So that made me think that Penelope is essentially the murderer in the room with the detectives who somehow has a clean slate in her mind. And that really can only be done with somebody who has extreme compartmentalization and, again, sociopathic tendencies. Now, as for the show does a much better job of showing how confused she is and how worried she is. And Penelope as an actress, or the actress who played Penelope, did a wonderful job of conveying all of those emotions. Because again, at this point, we already know that she is Lady Whistledown, and the show is very upfront about it. It gave it away in the previous season, and now we're dealing with the repercussions of that. So we, as the audience, know something that most of the characters don't. And I thought the show was really great about it. Where the show falters, so again, I think the show was kind of a neutral alike, at least for the first half. Where the show really falters is in throwing so much at us that is largely irrelevant. We have Colin, who is now is a love interest. We have Hyacinth, who now is a love interest. We have Benedict, who has a love interest, who is just basically who's basically just a widow with a brain, so that fits all of his criteria. And it feels like everything can be easily wrapped up, but they're just throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. So Bridgerton is very easy to watch, but it feels very much like eating popcorn, where it's just empty calories. And based on the first half, I can kind of see. I think I know where things are going to end. I do believe that that final scene from the book will be wonderfully done, but all of the various Bridgertons who are going to be paired off, I'm not really excited for any of that. And yeah, we'll see how the series ends, but
He's not gonna stick
I'm
around
definitely
for
gonna watch it. It's
Eloise.
definitely entertaining, but in terms of do I really enjoy it, neutral alike.
That did not sound like a like. That sounded like a dislike to neutral.
That's honestly, Ben's like, no, I like, we were talking about it. He's like, no, I like the show. And we're like, you do?
No,
Sure
but
got a funny way. Hate
like-
to see what he would say if he hated it.
I know.
I know. It's like, dude, it's like when someone's like, this is how you treat your friends. I hate to see how you treat your enemies.
Yeah, actually, it's they say with friends you're a little more honest, and you can say like,
Yeah.
"Hey, sweetie, this isn't right." But
Yeah.
then with your enemies, you go, "Oh, that's nice," and then that's it. That's you use 3 words, leave.
When he talks about what he thinks is a sociopath behavior, he's not wrong. However,
Right.
in the show,
Psychiatrist Ben, man.
I know, but like in the show. Okay, so I took abnormal psych, and my mom's a psychologist, and we have a lot of fun talking about characters and things like that under that lens. Penelope talks very much about how Whistledown's an alter ego for herself for when she felt very disempowered and this gave her power.
Mhm.
And I do think the show is better at it because when you do read the book for the first time, and if you have never watched the show, you're like, yeah, it's kind of weird that you're not worried at all. But then you remember in the book, it says she's been doing it for a decade. And you're like, yeah, at that point, maybe you'd get a little bit cocky and not, and also be able to compartmentalize it at that point without being like, oh my God, it's about to find me out. Because it sounds like it's the first time a challenge has ever been issued. You don't have you don't have her antagonizing the queen at every turn, and then the queen being like, I'm gonna find out who you are.
Yeah, and I will say, so we get to compare now. So the queen is playing kind of the part of Lady Danbury. So in this aspect, they're split off into 2 characters, which I think is great because Lady Danbury is great at who she is, and the queen is fabulous at who she is as well. So, but in the book, so we've got Lady Danbury as the one who puts up $1,000 to whoever can out Mrs. Whistledown. So I too, yes, you would think that the pressure would be on, and I get that Penelope doesn't want anyone else taking credit, but it in the book, Colin is right. This was your out. This was your out. This is your way to.
I mean, Eloise said it in the show as well.
Yeah,
so it's not that they completely were like, oh, we're not going to do that plotline.
Yeah,
but they did well, showing that it's a part of her. That's like that would be like any.
I understood.
Never to write again.
Yeah, I understood. I understood. You know, when you hear her explain it and hear her talk about it, you understand. But in the book, she does come off a little bit more like, this is separate. I don't get this. This is not a problem. And it's just like he was very aggressive. You do see Colin suddenly turn from a teddy bear to this very aggressive grizzly bear kind of almost. And it's just like that was a little odd. Yeah. Not gonna lie, Ben is not wrong about his analogies are
well, like I said, the guys are much more problematic than they are in the show.
Yeah, so he's literally like grabbing her and stuff, and it was just like, calm down, it's her, not you. But he's literally was acting as if it was a member of his own family or his child, and still being too aggressive, in my opinion. With I've just found out who you are and what you're doing, and what are you doing? Like, just, I was like, calm down. And she's very much has compartmentalized it. Like, that is this. It's not a problem. I don't care. No one's taking credit for Lady Whistledown. And it's just like that.
It feels a little bit like, yeah, I understand not wanting anyone to take your credit, but if that was like, it doesn't feel like in the show where she's like, it's basically cutting off a part of myself.
Yeah, in the show, I felt like it was done much better in the show because when she's like having like near panic attacks, she's passing out like that. I feel like because if you imagine the weight of the entire town, everyone coming down on you, that
Not
level
even
of
just
fear.
that. Your best friend gives you an ultimatum. Midnight, your engagement party, two best friends, brother who has been the love of your life the whole time. That's like, who cares about the rest of the town? You should still care about the queen because she has the power to. But
because you said things about the queen too, lady. Come on.
That was dumb, and that's not a mistake that Whistledown makes in the books.
No. So I felt the stakes a lot more in the show than I did in the book. She was too calm and he was too angry. Physically angry, like the grabbing part and the falling out of the carriage. Oh my gosh!
But the line that Portia said, Penelope goes like, "What about my dreams?" And Portia goes like, "Ladies don't have dreams; they have husbands." Yeah. Like, oh, okay, we're leaning into the gender politics again, which they've done in every season. So that's clearly a through line, which I appreciate.
Yeah, it's a painful truth. Very much so. What are you guys any other thoughts on the characters from the book to the show? Aside from that, I think that I can't unsee them. I don't care how they're described in the book. They are the characters from the show. The actors are
the cast.
They're killing it. That's who I see. Doesn't matter what she's describing, doesn't matter what color eyes she says Penelope has, doesn't matter what she says any of the other characters look like. They're the characters on the show because the actors, they're. So
what I was saying earlier is that I miss a character who's like in proximity.
Mm-hmm.
In the show, Penelope's the youngest Featherington daughter. That's not true in the book. And someone is like, "Oh, you're interested in this one," and Colin's like, "No, you have it wrong." I think that was an interesting thing. I think
I almost forgot about that. Do you know, when I was reading it, I almost forgot. And she says something like, "So and so didn't have a dance partner, but you didn't." And I was like, "Oh yeah," like literally.
Yeah.
And
I think they tried to do it when Penelope gets like the dresses, and then Portia's like, "I thought you're just doing that for fun. I didn't realize you were actually trying to get a husband. Like, you're past that."
Yeah.
It's the same, like, oh, like that was never a possibility in my mind for Penelope, but you don't have her literally overlooking Penelope. I mean, she overlooks Penelope a lot in the show, but like in a different way for the two older daughters who are like more similar to her. But in this case, it's like, oh no, like she literally skips over Penelope in the book.
Yeah.
Because there's the older and then the younger. So it's just different.
Yeah. And I do love how they, with the Whistledown money that Penelope has, they show in different ways how Penelope is actually really generous to her family. So there's an inheritance from an aunt that doesn't exist. The father dies in the books, so they need money, and she gives the Whistledown money to her mother in the pretense of this inheritance. So she's very generous with her money, with her family. So for all of their faults, they love each other, with all of the picking on and all of that stuff. And I think that care comes across really well in the show, because when, I forget which sister it was, compliments her about Prudence, about how, and she's like, "Okay, now you can tell," and she goes, "No, I'm just telling you look beautiful. That's it." There's no backhanded comment.
And then she looks at Philippa, and they're both like, "Oh wow, she's changing. Pregnancy is changing her."
Which, by the way, I still didn't believe her, just because through the whole season it was quip after quip, glare after glare, and
But they don't. They don't know that. They don't know about. Oh, what was that, Zara?
She's getting replaced as like mom's favorite. So
yeah,
I mean, the mom thinks she's an idiot because she's like, oh, we need someone malleable who can like marry cousin Jack, and like I can still basically control the household. So she doesn't get that, like, okay, maybe the attention that Mama Featherington has been giving you isn't the most positive, but it's still like she was the center of attention because Philippa was like, she was there. She got married pretty quickly, you know, and then Portia just didn't care enough about Penelope. So she's used to it and she gets stuck. I do think she maybe didn't fully genuinely mean it when she offers that compliment, but I do think by the end she's like more or less supportive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you disagree, Natalie?
Okay, so my biggest problem that I have, and I'm not sure if anyone shares this thought, but all right, we're doing full spoilers. Just throwing that out there. In the book, Colin has this grand scheme, a grand gesture, and announces that his wife is Lady Whistledown and that he loves her despite that, and screw anybody who thinks otherwise.
Yes.
And it is such a beautiful grand gesture and shows how well he's turned a leaf. However, in the show, we have independent Penelope who's taking ownership of her actions and it's showing her ability to think through problems from multiple angles to find a solution in the predicament that they find themselves in. And I love both of them, but at the same time, I'm like, is there an option where we can have both? I want the agency of Penelope and I want the grand gesture of Colin, because otherwise Colin is falling flat for how angry he was, and all of a sudden it's like, you know,
I feel like she should have confessed. People get mad. He gets up there, defends his wife.
Yes.
And then the queen like steps in and is like, I'm making the decision.
I want a grand gesture from Colin. Yeah. That's what I'm missing in the show. And I didn't realize I was missing the agency in the book until I saw it in the show.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
I agree. But
that
I
is my
biggest Colin was
issue. And I think that's why it's not a love for me. It is that. And I was like, is it just me? Am I being too nitpicky here? But I was just like, I want that.
I did miss it because I mean, his confession of love after the announcement, I was like, honestly, kind of probably the best. Like, okay, King George had a really good love confession in Queen Charlotte, but compared to the ones in season 1 and season 2, although Anthony's second one is much better than the first one that's always quoted, and you're like, being called the bane of someone's existence is not romantic. Yeah, that's not like great. The one that blew in front of the fireworks.
They took you I burned for you, so they took it. So he didn't have that one.
I know, but it's like you have such a good one at the Featherington ball when the fireworks are. Anyway, that's not the point. You know, it's not that I don't think Colin's speech was romantic, but it still doesn't replace a romantic gesture.
Yeah, actions speak louder than words, and I will say, I feel like that he did so well when he told off Miss Featherington and was like, no, I love her. She didn't entrap me. I was like, yes, but the thing is,
still speaking.
That is not as strong. That's not as strong because at the time he doesn't know she's Lady Whistledown.
Yeah.
If we had that moment and he knew she was Lady Whistledown, that would have been a perfect scene. But I also felt that it was necessary to have it at the beginning too, so I don't want to take away from it either.
Does he know when he like does that with Portia? A slightly different conversation, but in the book, I don't think he knows at that point either. When he like
he doesn't know. Yeah. Oh, in the book? Oh,
in the book, he knows because in the book,
when he's like, I want to, you know, like I would like to propose to your daughter, and she's like, oh, I'll get Felicity, and it's like, no, Penelope, the one I entered with.
Oh yeah.
It was after he just caught her, and that scene kind of drug out really, really long. But it was long.
My brain was like
being angry. It was long in him being angry a lot and grabbing her a lot and blocking her and keeping her letter from her. And I'm like, you're being
I remember the scene. For some reason, my brain couldn't remember the order.
Like with the order of it, yeah.
So
when they changed the order in the show, it kind of makes you think. Because even when I was watching the show, I was like, I know this happened, but when did this happen?
I think
and then I read the show where I was like, oh yeah,
agree that there needed to be something after he knew.
Yes. So
And
I
don't
yeah.
think going to Cressida and doing that is enough. Like, I wanted him to be like, he knows all of it, and he's like really, really going to bat and like keep my wife's name out of your mouth type of energy.
Yes. Yes.
Cressida really changed from book to show.
She did.
She's married by the time
know.
that book 4 rolls around.
Years later. Because I think it would be kind of hard to explain why. Well, she's a terrible person, but why someone who's so beautiful still isn't married.
No.
So, it wouldn't make
I think it's
her attitude.
In the show they
very
make
nasty person.
when Madame Delacroix and oh my God, who is the opera singer that Anthony was with all the time? I'm blanking on her name.
Oh yeah. Oh, I forget her name.
Oh, whatever. I used to know it off the top of my head, and she's like, oh, like, what do you? I can make you a dress out of this fabric, for your next performance. She's like, oh, that doesn't really fit me, and it's like, I could have the finest fabrics though, and nothing's going to compensate for the sneer of like the Cowper girl, and it's like, so people know that she's rotten in that, whereas in the books it's like, yeah, she's rotten, but she fits in with the ton, and so obviously she got married.
Yeah. Yes, obviously somebody thought, I just want the eye candy, and she's nasty. It's fine. She's terrible.
I'm probably gonna hate my wife anyway and barely spend any time with her. So
Might as well have a pretty wife I hate, I guess.
Because then I'll have a handsome heir.
Yeah. Any other thoughts before we get on to what our best and worst changes are? We ready? All right. So, anybody have any best and worst changes?
It's that end scene for me. I've already said my piece on it. I really like it. Just that is the one thing where I was just like,
yeah, I loved it, but I really needed more from Colin. So I don't. It's like you were right. How do we get both?
Yeah, and I think what's also hard is that in part 1 you have the pacing in some ways very slow, and like not seeing some of the lead up to their relationship, because it's like, oh well, there were previous 2 seasons. It's like not everyone watches every season. You still like need to like have that in the show, and it's like, so I feel like there's stuff missing from Colin in part 1 and part 2, and like the part 2 is the really, really big stuff that we've been talking about that like could have been drawn from the books or inspired by the book and things like that. And then part 1 is just like, have more.
Part 1, Colin, I would have written him up and be like, this dude's fake.
I was just like,
it was too. But I wasn't that kind
was
of
great at it.
Isn't that kind of what Lady Whistledown said though?
Yeah, I mean she does.
I mean, in fact, just being fake Prince Charming to everybody.
And it's like, true, but it's like the only thing we get is once he realizes he likes her, is like he has a dream, which like, okay, fine, so did Daphne. Like, we get it. If you're, again, Bridgerton family has similar traits to each other. You all could probably go into therapy for that. But it's then his confession of like, oh, I can't stop thinking about you. And then the I love you, the first I love you he says isn't even to Penelope. It's to Portia talking about Penelope while Penelope is there. And it's like, you need to show it more. I don't think he ever got her flowers.
Yeah. And I feel like that was kind of a point in the book too, because, she was lamenting on, someone asked her, so how did he say he loved you? And she's like, oh, he actually hasn't done that. I wish that he had. When is he going to actually say the words? Even though he's acting like he does. And she's like lamenting about that.
Yeah, but it's like in the show, I'm like, is he acting like it? Really? Like, I mean, he just like, we're seeing he's like really jealous. They play Nick Jonas is jealous while he's watching him talk to the guy in the wheelchair. And he, she's like, I didn't think you'd ruin when you offered to help me find someone. I didn't think you'd also take it away. It's like, okay, you're jealous. That doesn't mean you love someone. So like, where's the love? in your actions.
Yeah.
In this season, when it's actually about your love story, not about, oh, he's very kind and he dances with her and like gives Cressida like the direct cut in season 1 when she like throws her drink on Penelope and is like, oh, there's like, you know, you can, my final dance slot on my dance cards for you, and she throws it on Penelope and he's like, actually, I can't offer you that dance. I'm supposed to dance with like Penelope, and it's, you know, sir, you could do more.
All right, let's do speculation. We'll do speculation because I think it's fun to think of, because now that everything's out of order and we kind of, I know what's supposed to happen in Benedict's book, and I have ideas, just the nitpicks that I've picked up without getting too spoilered. I have ideas about what's supposed to happen with Eloise and Francesca. So let's do a little bit of speculation.
On to this. Okay. So my theory is, because right at the very end, we're talking about the masquerade ball. The masquerade ball needs to happen. And I feel that during, we're going to have like a montage of letters as they're getting ready for the masquerade ball for Eloise. And then we're going to get, my theory is we're going to get Eloise's story, but we're going to get that co-line thing that we had with Francesca and Colin. So that what needs to happen at the masquerade ball for Benedict does, montage letters and everything with Eloise. Eloise's story goes on, and Benedict, hopefully we get that lost puppy thing that we need from him, in that like switch of, I need to get my life together. Maybe he likes his art more, who knows. And that will be, and then also what needs to happen with Francesca, I think will happen in like the last 2 episodes.
I'm wondering if they're going to give, even though Eloise says it in this season 3, I wonder if what you said happens, it's going to be like Benedict's the one who's like, wow, a lot of my family has married off. What am I doing? Because especially they've made them so similar and kindred spirits in the show. Not that they're not, you know, good siblings.
Totally agree. The issue is that Eloise actually made the comment of everyone's getting married, like what you brought up earlier. But Benedict shot Lady Tilly down and was like, I just want to be free. Like, I think
also he didn't want to be in that type of relationship long term, especially when certain things came to light. And at the start, she was like, I was married, mourned my husband. I'm not looking to marry anyone new. I have a theory about how she actually relates to Benedict's story going forward.
Yeah, I've seen a plot point.
So everyone was like, you know who's the evil stepmother in like this world? It has to be Cressida's mom, because her name is Araminta, which is the name of the stepmom in the book to Benedict's love interest, who I won't.
She's evil enough and everything, because I thought there was going to be a plot point where Tilly is the stepmother.
So that's what I think, because he walks in, she's kind of yelling at her solicitor and is like, if you don't do what I say, you won't stay my solicitor. And for people who don't know, the mom is doing some shady shit, which allows her to keep a certain character in a Cinderella role. So that's why I was like, even though the name is Araminta, for the mom, the behavior more so is this.
Yeah, because who would be the step
off Cressida's dad?
Yeah, who would be the stepdaughter then if it was Cressida's?
Well, it would be someone that we'd never seen, and some people are like, oh, she's just going to be a ward. And it's like, that could apply anywhere. And it makes more sense that it's someone who is introduced into Benedict's story.
I like this. I like this.
Either way, I've been thinking about it for a while.
Okay.
I've been thinking about it for a while as well.
Eloise. Okay. Do we think that we're going with
the book character?
The book character who was the character from season 1. I mean, Marina had twins.
Yeah.
The story.
I mean,
she lost the love of her life. She's not. she cares for this dude, but she's not the love of his life. And she's she's a very stoic character. Could this be?
I mean, they could write her out because the actress who played her, I think wrongly bashed Shondaland and Netflix for being like, they didn't support me at all when I like had a mental breakdown, even though it happened after filming had wrapped.
Yeah, I don't know that they would necessarily know what to do.
It was also like, it wasn't like it was on set when it was happening, when their well-being of their actors is their responsibility, or should be their responsibility.
It should be.
It was completely separate and after the fact. So anyway, I think she's like would never work with them again, or they would never work with her again. So they could easily write her out and have that be the case. And people have like shared pictures of why am I forgetting all the actors' names? Anyway, Claudia Jessie, who plays Eloise, and then the actor who played Philip Crane. Yeah, in the show, like them just, I think at maybe the wrap party for season 1 or something, or at some press, whatever. And you look at them, you're like, oh, in modern clothes and whatever, like you could look like the couple, but the way that, I mean, he'd probably get the leading man makeover that they all do.
Yeah, the glow up.
But it's like, I don't know, because after we met Theo, I'm like, are you going to introduce an entirely new character? Like, what's up with that? I don't know.
Yeah, I would.
I'm very curious.
Well, they replaced Francesca. So, I mean, it can be done.
Well, yeah, no, but I mean, that was a scheduling conflict.
Yeah.
Which I loved Hannah Dodd, but her face did not match the rest of the Bridgerton. She had a much more modern face.
I still loved it though, because like to me, she matched Daphne a lot more than Eloise does. And
I always felt like Daphne was the outlier in the show.
Yes,
they all look very similar except for Daphne.
And there's a scene,
I think that Francesca does look more like Daphne, so that makes it tie in a little bit better.
It doesn't fully break out, but given Daphne's no longer in the show, when you see the lineup of them all together, and like I think it's when they're reading the banns or something for Colin and Penelope, and they're sitting in their different pews on opposite sides of the aisle. Colin is sitting next to Hyacinth, and someone grabbed a screenshot, and they both have the exact same expression, and they look like siblings, and it's like, you see, I wouldn't necessarily say that Anthony Benedict and Colin all look similar, but like the way they act is enough to like bridge whatever gap there is.
I will say in season 1, I got them confused, and now I know them.
Oh, I did too, especially Benedict and Anthony. I was like, wait,
God,
no,
completely.
I don't know why they don't look alike, but I got
at the beginning. I was just like, who? Like, I need to wait. I was like, is this the guy with the opera singer? Oh, no. Okay, this guy. All right, cool.
Yeah, but for me, it's just like, because Daphne isn't there to like balance it out, where it's like, oh, they're both
now she looks
like the only outlier.
Where at first Daphne was the one who looked,
and it made sense for Daphne to look different because she's called a diamond of the first water. She's supposed to be not just a standout from her own family, but literally all of them.
Which, by the way, there was technically still a diamond not named in season 3. Technically. Like, there was all this upheaval that Lady Whistledown was calling out the queen, going, she didn't name somebody, and the queen's like,
oh, Francesca. She like picks, Francesca as her favorite.
Oh, that's right, she did.
There was a nice letter up with the her Marquess Samadani.
Yeah, the Marquis.
Yeah, but there was still no.
It was very womp. Like,
yeah, like it wasn't the grandeur of like marvelous, whatever she says, or flawless.
Yeah, flawless.
Like it was done in private, where she was like, "Say you're sparkling," walks out of the room. I'm like, "Say you're sparkling to who?"
She did the last time she did it really publicly, Anthony fucked up the wedding. So she's also probably not looking forward to.
True. Like, I mean, which is funny because then her right-hand man, I forget his name, he goes, we've had such luck with Bridgertons. What luck?
Haven't they?
Every single one of them was like,
Daphne did not marry the prince.
Daphne refused your nephew. Anthony basically unintentionally, but like spat in the face of you putting on the best wedding ever.
Yeah.
At the royal palace. And now Fran obviously it said before Francesca rejects the choice that she made for her, but it's like, you have not had good luck with Bridgerton. You have been entertained by Bridgerton.
Yeah,
There's
exactly. Bridgerton associates have been picked, but it has always gone askew. It has always been entertaining, but they did not go with the people that you wanted them to go with at all.
But I did enjoy that it turned out Lady Danbury apparently knew all along.
There was no legwork for that in the show, though. That was like a nod to the book.
Yeah, that was kind of, it was almost a throwaway line. The only time that you got a vibe for that she actually knew is when she was talking to the queen going, so what happens if you win? Like, the game's over.
Want to not be fun anymore.
There's that. There is also when she's reading the corrected Lady Whistledown after the fake one goes out that's insulting the Bridgertons, and she like is like nodding and she's like kind of looking out the window, where I was like, okay, in the show, is that supposed to be the moment where she's like, yeah, that's my girl.
Yeah.
Defending, because then later she says there's only one person who like loves the Bridgertons more than I do. I was like, not more than you, as much as I do should have been.
Also, the fact that when the queen tells everybody who's not a Bridgerton to leave.
Oh, Lady Danbury is like,
she's like, I'm going nowhere.
I mean, she is the queen's. She's older than the queen.
Yeah.
She mentored the queen, thanks to Queen Charlotte. And, so it's like, you're not going to tell Lady Danbury to leave. And even the queen doesn't tell, she doesn't care.
Nobody's telling Lady Danbury to leave. I just thought that was golden. I was like, is she not going to leave? No, she's not. Okay.
But it's like, even season 1, when Daphne and the Duke go to have their final dance in the rain, and, Philippa and Finch want to go out and join, and Lady Danbury, doesn't fully whack them, but like she puts her cane out to like block anyone. She's like, I think the soiree is over. Everyone should go. And then no one does. And then she's like, now. And even the queen just like leaves. With their
time leave.
So.
Oh, Lady Danbury is great. All right. Any other speculation that we want to do?
Do you think we're going to see more of like Violet and Marcus?
Oh yeah, I feel like they're starting to lay heavy into subplots to keep people interested, but like Ben said, I mean, it's kind of like throwing a lot at the viewer, instead of focusing on just one character. But the books focusing on one character, we never got the queen, and I remember us talking back in season 1 how we loved having like queen POV, the whole sprinkled in there. Yeah. But now it's not just queen POV, it's
Danbury, Violet,
other couples, which can be.
I feel like honestly, if it just gave them 2 more episodes so that we could have like, maybe, how when you have a show that has like many episodes, how they'll have those throwaway episodes that are focused. I wish that we had those. That way we could get more focus on the couple actually being in love, falling in love, their time in love.
I think what they're trying to do with the adults, like Violet, the Danbury, and the Queen, is like, we start like they became fan favorites in some ways from season 1 and season 2. Let's do Queen Charlotte, and then we're going to assume everyone has seen that to lay the groundwork for what we're like continuing in season 3, and they're going to just keep doing that. And I was like, it's not that I don't care about them, and I would actually care more about them if it was like, here's like the older generation and like the main younger generation, or maybe 2 Bridgertons at a time. But like, you've added so much more. However, I heard a rumor that the Featheringtons as a whole are not going to be in the next season.
That's interesting.
And I was like,
I mean, that kind of makes sense because now Penelope was their tie, and like once the couples get together, they kind of go on honeymoon.
She's not in that household. Yeah,
but there's now going to be space, quote unquote, for more subplots. I kind of hope they don't add even more subplots.
Yeah, let's
number wise, where it's like you're kind of eliminating one, and you can have 2 Bridgertons, and you have like the older whatever. But
Yeah.
like, please don't
The OGs.
add a ton more.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, it does, especially for those of us who are going through the books and the show. You're confusing me, man. Like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
One last speculation I want to do, and then we'll get into Ben's thoughts on the best and worst changes. What do we think is going to happen with the queen? Timeline wise, her time is the time is nigh. Her years are almost up. It's almost time where Queen Charlotte passed away before George. So
I totally forgot about that.
People are speculating that how many more episodes does she have, or do they just change that?
I think they change it. I can't see them getting rid of her.
She's way too strong.
She's
unless they want to like wreck our entire heart and everything. But it shouldn't be next season. I'll tell you that much. Like, at least.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be next season. If anything, I think it'll be like the season where, like, if they get to Hyacinth and Gregory. But now that they're doubling up in seasons, they might. I don't think it's going to be next season. I think that would be too much. I do wonder if we are going to see the birth of, like, her granddaughter, Victoria, which is what they did in the show. I can't remember if that's historically correct. But, you know, at the end of the baby race in Queen Charlotte, if they're going to do that, and it's going to, you know, again, have Queen Charlotte bringing in, like, Lady Danbury and Violet Bridgerton being like, there's a new baby. I've been told off by my son that I don't have a maternal bone in my body. Like, what do I do kind of situation?
Yeah.
Or maybe see George again to, like, because that seemed to pull him out of an episode when she was like, your line will continue, and then he's so sweetly he's like, our line. But, you know, it's like, you know, our son's gonna be a dad, you know. So I kind of miss George because he had made like a single scene appearance in the first 2 seasons.
Yeah, there's no room in this season.
It was really room for what they put in. Arguably, there wasn't room for some of the stuff they put in.
I loved his appearance last season, though.
Oh, that was so sweet.
Gosh, that was, especially when we got Queen Charlotte afterwards.
Oh my god! I want them to do, like, not call it Queen Charlotte again, but like Violet Bridgerton, you know, a Bridgerton story, and like, because she says in the season they bring up about like how she started off as friends with Edmund and he gathered the courage to ask, and you know, every season it's like, oh, I want what you and, you know, Dad had, basically. And it's like, okay, so can we see that? Because we saw young Violet in Queen Charlotte before anything.
Yeah. I hope so. Let's do Ben's final thoughts. He's going to tell us his comparisons, and then we'll get into our final thoughts.
He's going to say he liked it, and then we're all going to be like, did you laugh?
Now, in terms of best and worst changes, I think the show does a lot to fix the issues within the book. Specifically, 2 major details, where we have Penelope, who we already know is Lady Whistledown, and we get to see her fear at being outed as the person in society who is kind of posting all of the internal secrets. And we see her frustration at not being able to tell the world, but being afraid of everyone discovering her secret. And Colin hasn't become the rage monster yet. So I guess that'll take place in the second half of the season. But for right now, I think it does a great job of showing us who Lady Whistledown is and getting us to draw in with all of the characters' conflicts over that secret. Now, the worst change is that they have kind of thrown everything together in the first half of the season. So there's multiple Bridgertons who are eligible for romantic pairings. We have Benedict, we have Colin, we have Hyacinth, we have like 3 or 4 others. It seems like everybody's going to be coupled off. It feels like the showrunners aren't confident in the series to last over time or in the strength of this book. So they decided to throw in a whole bunch of additional plot points into it. So my worst change is that season 3 has so much to do that it doesn't really take the time to dwell on any one specific emotion, person, or plot point. Also, my sword musings, the whole agreement between Colin and Penelope felt very much, and this is going to sound crude, but like American Pie 2, where you have two people who are clearly going to get together, but they sort of form a pact to help the other person be more eligible.
Like book
But that's
one.
a romance trope. That's a romance trope.
It is.
Book one definitely did that. I mean, there was the
It did.
pact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna look more attractive to other guys because I'm showing interest.
I'm with you.
And you're gonna help me avoid everyone trying to get me to marry their daughter like that. And we're not gonna fall in love with. What did he say? Like, given you have no desire to marry me and I have no desire to marry, we'll be fine. And it's like, sure, buddy. Like,
no, you're not going to be fine.
like we
Here
know how it ends.
Yes, romance trope people love that, but does it feel a little like been there, done that? You know. Also, for me, the reason why it doesn't play the same is because they've been friends for so long. I'm like, you're gonna basically Why do you not know that you like her? I can't get past that part of it.
I've read some fan fiction and like some really recently like social media fanfics where they'll like pretend like, oh, it's modern and everyone's tweeting and posting on Instagram and all that is really fun. And the way that they do it, I think shows it better than either the book or the show did, where it's like Penelope's still pining, Colin's either clueless or he's also been pining, which is a fun change. And then it's like circumstances happen and they're like, oh shoot, I might actually lose them. And it's more like you can get the feeling of, oh, we're comfortable. I don't want to ruin that. But then when it becomes, oh, someone might actually come between us, that's what spurs them into action. And I don't feel like the show does it, but also doesn't do it enough.
Yeah. Any other final thoughts before we talk about what's coming up in July?
No.
Natalie, what do you recommend reading?
Yeah, I was going to say, I do think if anyone hasn't consumed either, I would recommend you read Colin's book as well as Francesca's book at the same time. I think that might be why Ben had issues, is because he's not aware of the other books, and they are adding things in that aren't in the books that trying to develop characters and stuff like that. So it would help, but I actually highly recommend reading the stories. And with Francesca's, you could just read like the first 4 chapters, then you're good.
To get the context of the show. I mean, eventually you should read the rest of the book, but
yes, absolutely. Well, first off, good luck stopping after 4 and go, yeah, sure. No, now I'll just watch that. Yeah. If you can wait that long, bravo. I could barely wait a month between part 1 and part 2 of Bridgerton, which I highly recommend. They don't do that again.
I don't either.
They're going to. They got record high.
I forgot so much.
Here's what I think that they should do. I think that they should drop the first 4 because that was just a frenzy. Yes. And I get you build up the hype. If you stretch things out, go ahead and drop it 1 episode at a time after that.
That's actually what they're doing with The Boys. They're doing that. Oh, speaking of love tropes and everything, a real life documentary, I think it's on Netflix or Prime. I don't know. I've been jumping between both. There's this documentary called Longest Third Date, and it's about this couple who right before the pancake go to Costa Rica for their third date, and they're stuck. It is like the best real life story adorableness ever, like, and just the turmoil, and you're just like, oh my god. And they compare it to like going into this, how they didn't want a relationship and stuff like that. They were just wanting something fun and so just Longest Third Date, throwing that out there.
All right.
I was full fangirling.
Okay,
Thank you for
I
the
will
rec.
say my final thoughts about it. I thought the costumes in this season looked costumey, and I didn't like
Like
it.
the hair.
Well, just a lot of things, and people were like, "Oh, it's fantasy. It doesn't have to be realistic." I was like, "But it should be consistent with seasons 1 and 2," and you didn't do it, and it just felt very weird. That being also like, I'm not talking about historically they're inaccurate for wearing a corset, not over a top like I am.
Yeah.
Because all throughout history, you would put on something underneath and then put it on, and also not wear it so tight that you're fainting. Unless you're higher up, which they are, but it's like it's for support. I've been wearing this whole time, fine, able to breathe, etc., etc. But also, it's just like Cressida's outfits. I was like, you can tell they're 3D printed, and you shouldn't be like that should not have been a thought at the forefront of my mind during any scene.
Yeah. Now, Nicola's outfits, they were not
That
pretty,
green
right?
dress with the like translucent thing with
Yeah, she was showing that there was like beading and everything on those dresses. Like, so were they picking and choosing? Was there a budget issue? What was going on?
So in behind the scenes they've like had talked about there's the main guy, there's a woman, and then there's another guy, and they'd all collaborate, but it was like the woman was in charge of some of the characters and then the guys were in charge of different characters. And I'm like,
no, you got to have
you have to be cohesive.
Talk more, like co-authors talk more than these people apparently.
It's just like,
yeah. However, I will say Nicola looked amazing. Holy moly.
I think the characters all looked really good in their costumes, but given what we were used to for the first 2 seasons, it felt very jarring. And people are like,
yeah.
And so people who are like, oh, it's not supposed to be realistic. I was like, I did not say that.
No.
We could go into that. There are YouTube channels dedicated to pointing out historical inaccuracies
tons
in
of
film and TV.
But be consistent with the show.
Yeah.
Or are we deliberately saying that fashion is changing? Because this is a time period where even the Queen's fashion changed. If you look at Queen Charlotte,
her hair was on point, by the way.
Her wigs were great this season. I think they were some of the best wigs.
Oh yeah,
aside from young Queen Charlotte.
Yeah, and if you are trying to transition fashions, you have a modiste. Say so. That way, for people who are noticing these things.
That's what it did for Penelope. They said it for that, but they
and I was like, made total sense. I was like, oh, her fashion's about to.
Which I'm so glad that she's a consistent side character. I love her character.
I love her.
She is like, I love, even though it's supposed to be a fake French accent, I still love it. I love hearing her talk. I love
her friendship with Madame Delacroix is kind of Penelope's friendship with Madame Delacroix is a little bit her friendship with Lady Danbury from the books. And am I like a little bit sad that we don't get the amazing Adjoa Ando and Nicola Coughlin's characters like interacting? Yes. But I do love Genevieve Delacroix. I know I'm not convinced that Delacroix is her actual last name, but her character.
Her character. All right. That is going to wrap it up for our talk on Bridgerton. Coming up, we will get back to you with the date, but we are going to do Damsel. Natalie, do you want to tell folks a little bit about?
So Damsel, the book and the movie are the movie's on Netflix. It stars Millie Bobby Brown.
Millie Bobby Brown and
great cast.
Robin Wright.
Robin Wright is in it too, yes, and I swoon at that. But it is a fabulous story about a girl who is sold, technically because dowries and stuff like that. Not dowries, but a well-established kingdom likes to like buy a bride for their son who's a prince, and her
there's some mystery. There's some mystery behind that.
Her kingdom really needed the money, so her father kind of had a little bit of qualms, but he also needs to protect the people. And then she has this duty of, this is for my people. Like, I love where I've come from. And so they are married, but things happen that is maybe it's not as lovely as she thought it was, and so she has no one else to depend on but herself to get her out of some upheaval. If you're in a situation of a choice, I recommend reading the book first. The book had so much more detail. Think of the language development of Lord of the Rings. Okay, it's that good in the book. Especially with if you have author comments at the end where she explains how her daughter, 12 years old, came up with a brand new language. Don't worry, I'm not giving anything away. But there's also the movie itself did still have some great moments. It just didn't rely as much on the language or the magic that the book did.
I heard that Damsel had a very similar plot to a foreign film. I can't remember what it was because I saw it on Twitter. It was in another language, and I took a screenshot of it. But I take so many screenshots, so it's like very.
I'll have to look that up. I might watch it.
But if I can find it, I will send it. I want to say it was like Russian or a similar or type of language. I don't think it was an Asian story. I could be wrong though, but it was interesting to see that. So I don't know if you want that to be part of your discussion as well, if I can find it.
I like the influence. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Zara, for joining us for Bridgerton. This was a lot of fun. I knew it was going to be, we went way too long, so I didn't even speculate on how long we might be here because I'm like, we're just going to be here till we're done or until one of you guys says time, which neither one of you did. So I feel like we got our thoughts out. Everybody's like, yeah, we're here to talk about this. So thank you all for coming.
We at least know with Bridgerton, we're always going to be here. By the way, something to mention on Damsel, I'm sorry to digress, but that came out in 2023 and the movie came out in 2024. Hollywood's been doing this a lot lately where they're like teaming up with people before even the book is released. They did that with Argyle where they came out like a month apart. But yeah, and the Damsel, if you look it up, there is actually multiple Damsel books because titles aren't proprietary, but this one is by Evelyn Skye.
Okay.
Throwing that out.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks for those of you who came and watched it with us live. If you're watching on the replay, which most people do watch these on the replay, if you have any comments, go ahead and leave them down in the comment section. And when I see them,
Ben needs to throw his comments at the end.
Yes, we
he
need
has
to
homework.
Find out what he thought after seeing part 2.
I know, because his comments about part 1, I was like, yeah, I want you to know about part 2.
So if he answers, if his preference changed, like dislike and all that, if it changed, and as well as his best and worst change between the two, I definitely want to hear that after he's watched all of them.
Yeah, Ben, if you're listening, we want to know.
Don't worry, we'll just text him and send a message. Be like, dude, you better go back. You don't even have to watch the video, but would love if you did. Comment.
Also, yes. And if you make a little reel or something, YouTube short about it, I will definitely link it in the comments so people can get those thoughts from you personally. Thank you guys for coming. Zara, always a pleasure to have you. Natalie, my buddy, my reading buddy, keeping me in reading and watching cool stuff. I love it. All right. Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.